First up, though, let's talk about the prospect of a summer of discontent. Gosh, in my lifetime, I remember quite a few of those. We're looking at a massive national rail strike after the RMT union voted. Well, their members voted by a very large majority, and a very large number of them voting for the strike to have a national rail strike over the summer. Date's not yet set, but this could be part of a summer of discontent with British Airways staff going on strike, hospital cleaners, rubbish collectors, and lorry drivers as well. Let's talk to Eddie Dempsey. He's Assistant General Secretary of the RMT Union, who joins us now. Good morning to you, Eddie.
Morning, Julia.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us. There is no doubt at all, judging by the turnout you had to your ballot and indeed the overwhelming vote for these strikes. You've got the support of your members. The government, obviously, they want to bring in legislation, wouldn't come in soon enough to tackle your threat to strike, where they would actually be able to prevent strikes. You know, there's been a lot of limitations in terms of the percentage of people who have to vote, the percentage of eligible people to vote. You would have passed all of those anyway. They want to bring in legislation where basically you'd have to run a skeleton service. It's an essential service on the railways. You can't withdraw all of your manpower. You've got to keep essential services running. Would you agree to do that, whether it was required by law or it was voluntary, just to make sure the country keeps going?
Well, we think that's authoritarian nonsense, frankly. To be honest with you, we've already got the most restrictive anti-trade union legislation in Western Europe. And right now, we think the government should be focusing on bringing the industry and the trade unions together to find a settlement for railway workers. Some of our members are in the third year of a pay freeze now. The cost of living crisis has gone through the roof. And right the way throughout the pandemic, when our members were working hard to keep the country moving, we've seen the private companies in the train operators make 500 million in profits, the Roscoes, 950 million. That's almost half of all ticket sales during the worst pandemic year. Went out of this country to Jersey, to Luxembourg and other places. And we think there's got to be some fairness here.
Well, I would say the fairness needs to come to the taxpayers. 16 billion quid has been spent of taxpayers' money to bail out the railways because basically people were banned from leaving their homes. People weren't using the railways. People that still not using them to the same extent, either that's fears of COVID or just working from home. But I agree with you. Why any railway company has made even a penny in profit when they've had to be bailed out by us, I think is outrageous. But you say your members were working hard. I mean, yes, I know rail services were working. I was taking a number of them at the time, but the railways were basically pretty empty. There was no particular risk to railway workers from working no harder than, say, supermarket workers or anyone else going about doing their job. I'm not sure we have to have sort of let's clap for railway workers. They were doing the job they were paid to do.
Yeah, I mean, you would have seen it from the point of view of a passenger travelling, but you've got to appreciate our members are also out there building, maintaining and looking after the infrastructure. It's quite heavy in technical work.
Yeah, but that's the job they've applied for and that they're paid to do.
Absolutely.
Sorry, do you want a round of applause? Oh, thank you for going to work. What are you asking for?
Julia, I agree with you. There's got to be fairness to the taxpayer in this too, right? I'm not saying that's not the case, but you have to appreciate our members are in the third year of a pay freeze. And during the pandemic moment, almost 25% of the taxpayers' money that went into the industry went straight through it and to Luxembourg and to Jersey and into the private coffers of wealthy...
No, and I agree with you. I think that's unacceptable. You're saying that money, if it was going anywhere, should have gone into the pockets of the workers.
Well, I'll reinvest it in the industry. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. And what we're saying is...
I think a lot would agree with that.
We're not saying... We've not put a number on this. We're not saying we're demanding X figure. We're saying RPI at the moment is 11.1. We want a pay rise for our people, and they want some job security. We're not saying the industry hasn't got to change.
The retail pricing, the latest inflation figure is actually it's 9%. But yes, for the lowest paid workers, it's 11.1%. Let's face it, though, a lot of your members are not lowest paid workers, are they?
Most of our members are on around £24,000. But my members
An
are
awful
paid
lot of your members are not on that sort of money.
I wasn't. I was on £46,000 when I was on a railway as a worker before I got elected to serve my members in this trade union. But look, people have tightened their belts now for 3 years. It's only right and fair that people get a settlement. So we haven't named strike action at this point. We've been speaking to the industry for more than a year now. Yeah. And we haven't really been getting anywhere. Is
this then more about focusing minds? Are you saying that the bosses of the various rail companies, because it was all the different rail companies and Network Rail, you balloted the workers for all of them, are you saying they've just said, Mick Lynch, your boss, and to you, sorry, Mick and Eddie, we're not interested. You're not going to get any money out of us. We're taking all the profit. We're carrying on. We're not willing to talk to you. Are you saying it's been that much of a closed door, or is it just you're just not getting quite what you want? Have they put anything on the table in terms of a pay offer that matches or goes anywhere close to inflation?
Yeah, so what is actually happening, so if you note, the companies that we're in dispute with are all of the companies that are in direct control of the DfT. Where companies are not in direct control of the DfT, we're not in dispute because we're able to negotiate freely. So what we want is to have a situation where we get the government, the industry side and all of the trade unions together, and let's hash a settlement out. So you've got to appreciate we're under extreme pressure from our members, and that's how we've got it. They've issued a challenge not just to the industry but to us in the trade unions to resolve their issues, and that's what we exist for.
Do you think that you're
got a democratic right to demand this of their trade unions?
They do. But do you think you'll have the public support? The difference is, like, say the supermarket workers who did work, frankly, they're bottoms off during the lockdowns and the pandemic. If they went on strike, so Tesco go on strike, we can go to Aldi or Lidl or Sainsbury's or Morrison's or Waitrose or whatever. We've got a choice. If the railway company that operates to your local station goes on strike, you haven't got a choice. I mean, yes, you can go on the roads. They're going to be clogged up. Millions of people, of course, don't ever go on a rail journey, certainly not for work. And we think, well, they're not going to be affected, but they will, of course, when the roads are all clogged up and they can't get to and from work and kids' school and the like. Do you think, though, the public, when their lives are being disrupted, when this thing has got nothing to do with them at all, do you think they'll still be on your side?
Well, I think the public in general are all feeling the pinch, and I don't think the general public looking at this will think it's unreasonable for workers who've had a pay freeze for 3 years are asking for a pay rise and asking for some job security. That's what everyone wants at the moment. We're in the biggest cost of living crisis since records began, and I think the government has got to find a way to find a compromise here and make a settlement with not just us in the rail industry, but with working people more generally.
What sort of pay increase would be acceptable? What sort of number are you looking at?
Well,
the public sector generally has gone 3%. Inflation currently at 9%, set to rise higher. Are you looking at 9% pay rise?
Well, if I was negotiating with you, Julia, I'd take 9% and shake your hand. But this is a matter for negotiations because it's about more than money. So the first issue that's more important than anything else for our members is actually job security, because you can't have a pay rise if you don't have a job. You can't have good conditions if you're not at work. So the first thing in our members' minds at the moment is to hash a deal out that gives them job security. And we're not saying there can't be any change. What we're saying is that's got to be managed, negotiated, and people have got to be...
Except you object to any change, even when we go to driverless trains.